and we will get this. Public, please hold comments until the select board chairman opens the agenda items for public comment. When addressing the board, state your full name, both in person and on Zoom. It is suggested that you enter your full name as your ID on Zoom. All right, minutes. I will take a motion.
Move approval. Second.
All in favor? Appointments, recognitions, and resignations. Request appointment of Shelby O'Neill as full-time patrol officer for the town of Mount Desert, effective Monday, January 27th, 2025, at a starting rate of $29.29 per hour.
Move appointment. Second.
All in favor? Consent agenda. Department reports, highway buildings and grounds, solid waste. Department reports, treasurer, fourth quarter, October to December 2024, investment and earnings performance reports. Harbor Committee minutes, December 10, 2024. Warrant Committee minutes of January 7, 2025. And the University of Maine storm response and preparedness discussion invitation.
Move acceptance of the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Anybody want to talk about anything in there? All in favor? Thank you. Select board reports. Anybody have anything? Okay, I do. I asked Brian here with Mike Zabore to give us an update on some of the information that's been coming through the various blogs that is very confusing.
I'm confused.
Hard to
I
believe.
guess we'll start with what was the first thing that was confusing?
The changes in budgets is indecipherable in the Bar Harbor. Well,
The Bar Harbor story.
yeah, Bar Harbor City.
Do you mean, well, I forgot, Mike Story, superintendent of schools, sorry.
No, it's all right. No, for example, what are we looking at in terms of budget changes?
Oh, well, that would, the way it works is after the communities vote for an RSU, those communities that voted to join, if that was what was written in the plan, would then have a year to put together a budget. So you would be looking at a RSU budget. Let's say the vote happens in 2025 before November 30th. Then you would be building the 26-27 budget during the 25-26 year. That would be a full RSU budget. And so it all depends on that, when you have that vote date. But if I'm working with our lawyers just to double check our timeline. We have optimistically thought that we would have something for the summer, but I know we're bumping up against, for like at primary time, a lot of warrant deadlines that we may not make. And so November may be the date. Part of that is to ensure that there is plenty of time for going out to the community and having outreach and discussions about the plan that the RPC, the Reorganization and Planning Committee, puts forward. That will be a big effort. And after our last meeting in January, I asked to take a look at what that timeline would look like for the Department of Ed and our lawyers to make sure that we're not getting over our skis, so to speak, and make sure that there's plenty of time for community meetings to talk about the plan moving forward.
So wouldn't it would go to town meeting?
The idea is that there would be a referendum, not at town meeting, but a referendum for the creation of an RSU. There's so many, every town meeting is at a different place. Swans is coming up in February for the school side. So and we're not ready for that. And so it seemed like if there's going to be a referendum, that would be something that we would do at one time for all communities to make a decision rather than do it community by community and try to fit it into a town meeting timeline.
So if I understand what you're talking about, this would do away with the AOS
Yes.
and move toward an RSU.
Correct.
What does that do structurally with the positions that currently exist in the AOS? And how would they fit in an RSU structure?
Any of the AOS positions would just become RSU positions. So in terms of, let's say, OTs and PTs, occupational therapists and physical therapists, we would be able to hire those as an RSU and then be able to deploy them to different schools in a manner that would be that's a little bit easier and efficient. And if there were needs at other schools, the ability to have positions at a district level to provide needs at individual schools would be a lot easier than individual schools hiring positions that might be part-time. It's easier to sort of spread people out in terms of full-time employment, let's say.
So the school administration structure would pretty much be the same?
Pretty much be the same. I mean, I think it would take a little while to start to sort of see what to find efficiencies, I think would take a little while in terms of what that looks like for an organization of about, over 1,300 students and, over, 300 staff or more, if you consider teaching staff and then support staff.
Thank you.
Just the reorganization, would that include the reorganization of the schools? Would that all be voted on at once?
That's one of the ideas of potential of reorganizing the schools a little bit differently to take advantage of whether it's the idea of having a single middle school, utilizing all of our current buildings and staff and organizing it a little bit differently to meet the needs of students and staff overall. And there was, originally a couple versions that went out in January 22 of what models could look like in terms of trying to utilize our spaces to the best ability.
If one of the towns on the island didn't like it and voted against it, I didn't understand that story so well either, but it seemed like they would be on their own with their school. Does that mean they would not be part of this reorganization of where the kids go?
Well, I'll clarify that. There's 14 components that make up the plan that you have to send to the state. One of the last decisions that the reorganization and planning committee needs to make is to decide whether or not all the towns who are involved right now, which is all of our towns or either our islands and Trenton, it's either an all or nothing. So the RPC can choose to say it's all or nothing. And if one town says no, and it just doesn't happen. Or the RPC can choose, well, we'll go forward with reorganization if a certain core number of towns decides to go forward. And that's the last decision that the RPC needs to make this February to talk about that. So I think when I was at a meeting and I was talking, I was just giving examples of what might happen. So maybe Swans doesn't, if the RPC says, well, our core towns are the 4 towns on the island and Trenton, but the outer islands say no, they would still go forward. Or they might decide, they might choose a different organization, but that's all of those members of the RPC have to decide what that's going to look like. It's an all or nothing or a core town decision. And so there could be all kinds of varieties, but you would think that, your core towns, you would go forward. And the way the law is, if in a vote, let's say you do say, well, it's just the 4 towns on the island. Let's say the RPC decides that. The 4 towns on the island say, yes, we'll go forward. Then all the other towns, they remain within the AOS. And the RPC, the new RSU has to pick a superintendent. That remaining AOS would have to pick a superintendent, and they would have to decide what to do. And so, so that's basically what that process looks like. The entire AOS dissolves if every single town decides to go forward. If that's the decision of what a referendum would look like, in that question of the RPC.
And when it comes to the voters, whenever it comes, would it be clear to us, how much we have to pay?
Yes, I mean, those are come out at those meetings in terms of what the cost.
You mean the
sharing-
public
The public,
outreach?
yeah, we would show what that would look like for all towns.
Not just in terms of share, but in terms of
But
dollars.
in terms of dollars, yeah,
Yeah.
we've built a calculator that helps to show that for all the towns.
Mhm.
Because the model, and I think if you were to go look at the website, the piece that we were looking at is sort of taking the high school model, which is 67% valuation, 33% enrollment. And rather than that being a model for 13-year-olds to 18-year-olds, to make that a model for a new RSU for 4-year-olds to 18-year-olds. So if we're already have a cost sharing model that is showing benefits within our high school for that particular age range, makes sense to then expand that to our 4-year-old to 18-year-old population. And so, but then the overriding idea was thinking about that similarly situated taxpayer. So the idea that if you have a $400,000 house in Trenton and a $400,000 house in Mount Desert, you are paying similarly for the cost of education for those 4-year-olds to 12-year-olds within a district. As being a sort of a fair way of meeting the obligation of the common need to educate our students within our democracy. So that was sort of, that's the philosophy for the economic model that we've been playing around with, that we would be presenting that and having the calculator up so folks can see what that looks like.
And my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, was that the interlocal agreement that established the AOS cannot be dissolved without everybody voting to dissolve it.
When I spoke to our lawyers, what happens if there's a referendum and within an RPC where all of the members decide what that would look like, if it's like I said, it's all or nothing or whatever. So if the RPC says with the agreement of the other members that, oh, we're gonna do, there's a core member towns, and then if the others vote no, then they just stay as the AOS.
So wouldn't they have to be allowed to leave? I mean, the towns that decided to become an RSU would have to leave the AOS.
Yeah.
If it was left in existence, and I thought, my understanding, maybe it's not correct, but that everybody that's currently a member of and signed agreement in the interlocal agreement would have to allow them to leave. Not true.
According to
Okay.
the state and the law, if the voters knew of the choice, then, and they chose to leave the AOS to form an RSU, then they're out.
The second question I have has to do with Trenton specifically, having if currently they're come to the elementary, they're part of the elementary school, but they're not, they don't have a vote on the high school board, is that correct?
Yeah.
Because because in their town charter, they have school choice, which would have to be adjusted. Would they have to have a
maintain school
separate,
choice.
they would maintain school
Yeah,
choice?
They put that in early on as a way of enticing people. So any school that had school choice at the beginning before 2009, they would retain school choice, even if they were joining in the
Okay.
RSU.
And as a follow-up to that, if a town that's currently on the island, or Trenton for that matter, voted not to become part of the RSU, they could still send their kids to the high school like Lemoyne and Hancock do as a tuition student.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Far Harbor has an enormous debt now to rebuild their school. What happens to that in the consolidation?
In the way the statute is written, that's one of the 14 things that the RPC has to talk about.
Hmm.
Is to decide whether or not you follow statute, which says any debt incurred prior to the formation of a new school district, that town has to hold on to that debt and keep it. Or the RPC can decide to sort of share it. So there were 4 decisions that the group had to have 4 choices. So one was to accept the statute as it is and do that.
What makes it, as it is, keep your debt.
Keep your debt,
yourself,
and then
yeah.
moving forward, anytime any school within the new formed RSU has a building project that's shared. So let's say then the year after it starts and Mount Desert needs something, well, then that's shared between everybody. If all 9 are in the RSU, well, then, you're all partaking in, making that payment. The other choice was to think about phasing in the acceptance of the debt over time. Or doing a portion of the debt and, adding that into the budget. I think the RPC's final decision was taking a look at that and saying, well, a recognition that if everybody says yes and we join, then we're all in this together, and regardless of whose building needs support, then we will all support that for the best of the students and the staff. And so to have somebody on the outs seems kind of silly if others, need to do, because everyone's gonna benefit from children getting educated in, reasonable school buildings. So the idea is looking at adding 10% of their payment a year over 10 years. That's part of the proposal that the RPC said, that seems fair.
And will that be locked in, that decision and that plan be locked in before it hits the vote? So
Yes,
people
that will
know
have to be
what-
shared, you have
You
to.
can't, okay,
So
Yeah,
you've got to come to the voters with
and
a
say
whole,
this. Yep.
the whole.
very
deal.
specific.
Oh,
Very specific.
Very specific.
That's gonna be tough.
Well, when I look at the, the needs across our district in terms of where some of our buildings are, and what we're trying to do in terms of providing an education for our region. And when I think of this place, I think of ourselves as a region, and it really seems silly that we have all these little independent schools, some of them struggling really hard to be able to meet the needs of the students to get them to the high school and be ready and prepared. And Bar Harbor, needed a new school. But if there's a way of doing that and phasing it in over time, just like what we did with Trenton, is it took 7 years for them to sort of match their salaries and their benefit package to the AOS. But, we did that and did it over 7 years for the benefit of that staff for joining in to the AOS. And they did that slowly over, over time. And I think if you're thinking of, at least in my mind, what might be best overall and trying to bring everybody along, doing that over, over a long period of time makes sense. But that's something, you're right, we'll have to, still that to the voters.
Right? Anything else?
Nope.
No. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for
Thank you so
coming
much.
in. Yeah.
And if there's anything on, when you go to the AOS website and the organization tab is on the bottom and there's something that doesn't make sense, reach out to Brian or myself to be able to answer questions. But hopefully after the February meeting, there might be more information out there in terms of starting to set dates to meet with communities. And like you said, we'll have to tie up all those very important details that then have to be shared at those meetings, and we'll get feedback from folks and go from there.
I wonder why you decided not to do this in 2 stages. It seems to me, I totally understand the idea of having an organization with an administration and all the teachers can move freely from one school to another depending on needs, payroll, the whole thing. I understand that. Coupling that with changing where the kids go to school, I think is a lot to put out there all at once. I wonder if there was conversation about doing this in 2 parts.
I think early on there was conversation, but I think the idea, the philosophy that drove the initial discussions around thinking of what would be in the best interest of students and the way that we would organize, trying to utilize the work of the middle school committee that happened a couple of years ago, recognizing that, no, you can't build a brand new middle school, Bar Harbor's in the middle of doing something, but is there a way of utilizing our buildings and seeing ourselves as a larger region might help with that. And who knows what's gonna come out of our discussions, with the towns. I think that's gonna be, that could potentially move decisions one way or other, depending on, how those conversations go as we go from town to town.
I would urge you to stay flexible because I think you'll have you'll get more support if people feel they've had an opportunity to weigh in and be heard.
Absolutely.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
Right. No other reports. Unfinished business, none presented. New business. Public space special event application 225, Mount Desert Farmers Market, June 19th through August 28th, 2025, Northeast Harbor Village Green.
I move approval.
Second.
Can I ask a question about, we talked about, it still says $10 at the top of that? Was that gonna change?
That's up to you guys, it's your policy.
I thought
Well, we voted on it after they had put this
No.
in, right?
You didn't vote on it, you asked the question last meeting and I said it's your policy and you guys have to decide what you wanna do. And I didn't hear from anybody about putting something on the agenda to discuss it.
I thought we voted on.
We voted on raising the fee, but hadn't they
Right.
already put this in?
Yes,
See, that's what I mean.
I thought you
They-
had said
they
that they
applied
hadn't
for it
yet, that
before-
they hadn't turned it
Before
in.
we raised the fee.
right, but the fee is by application. If you wanted to change your policy on multiple.
No, that's not what I'm
uses from an
asking. I'm asking for the flat, the $10. I thought we voted to raise and
We
you said it
did
would
do that.
happen immediately.
Yes, we
Okay,
did do
that's
that.
what I was asking. I understand we haven't changed the policy on charging them for
Right.
12 events.
So,
That
but
wasn't what I
this,
was
yeah,
asking.
this was received, the day that you voted, so
Right.
they are still under the other,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I just misunderstood what you said the last time.
yeah.
Okay,
So I guess my question is this, the farmer's market is lovely and we all appreciate it for sure. But they pay $10 to be there every Thursday for 8 weeks, is that my understanding?
currently, that's correct.
Yep.
So, but now you said you voted to change that amount. What is that amount gonna be next?
So we changed it to $20 per application.
Okay.
We
so they're
didn't
gonna
discuss doing it by time.
That would be a
Okay, so it's
different,
gonna be $20 for the whole year. And
Next
we,
year.
and we have to hire a duty policeman down there. So really, that's a lovely public service that we have at a cost. Is there any thought that maybe they should pay per week?
there is that thought, and we have had that discussion, and we did not, we'd have to change a policy. We have not put that on the agenda to do that. It is certainly going to be discussed. I brought that up more than once over the last 3-4 years. So I wouldn't disagree with the person that thought that seemed unfair, that one person has a park for 4 hours and pays the same amount as a farmer's market that's there every week. And I've made that comment before, and it will be discussed, but that's not the question at hand. We cannot do anything about that right now.
So
And
I'm
I'm
gonna
interested.
I'm gonna keep pressuring you on this one. So a food truck pays $250 a year. Just to put it into context, as you think about what should be the rate for a multiple use thing. Just saying.
Is that a question?
No, it's a
okay.
statement. Just
All right,
keep-
pressure, she's bringing pressure to
Okay.
bear.
Just wanting you to know that,
Yeah.
it just seems like
Yeah, I get it.
they get a heck of a deal.
Yes, they do. Thank you. We need a vote.
All in favor? Space special event application, McFarland Wedding Ceremony, June 21, 2025, Northeast Harbor Village Green.
According to
No, it's a
the,
summons fee.
yeah, the permit, it's at
Yes,
Summersby
it's
Park.
Summersby Park, yeah.
So I would move approval.
Second, with enthusiasm.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Starting to-
Congratulations.
Can I ask, because I like to ask questions, there's no alcohol allowed in the park, period, right?
No,
Right.
That's right.
That's true.
And that's made clear to the people that are participating in this wedding or the people that are hosting it?
Oh,
It's a,
I think it's the law.
Well, it is, but
Yeah.
do they know that? That's all. Anyway, thank you. That's all.
All in favor? All right, consider appeal of rural wastewater rebate decision, M. Lear.
She's on, Michelle Lear is on Zoom.
Oh, she's.
Yes.
Hi, sorry, I was unmuting. Thank you for your time and I apologize for being forgetful this year, but I've lived in Mount Desert for about 19 or 20 years now, and in the last 7 or so years, I have been a single parent and having a single household, and I appreciate the tax club and being able to break up my taxes monthly, and I had remembered a couple of the rules that came along with it, but that being that we did it over a 10-month period, and we were to never be more than 2 months late with our payments, and I had forgotten that it should be 100% paid in full by December 1st in order to get this rebate. And this year I am teaching first grade for the first time, and it's very time consuming, and a lot of my focus in my life has been on work, and I haven't given my household as much attention, and that slipped past me this year. And I was just wondering, I was told that if I appealed to you, you could possibly give me that rebate.
I move that we forgive the,
Second,
Oh, yeah,
yes.
So this is actually written in the ordinance that it is due on, they have to be current on their taxes by the 1st of December. I'm sorry, I'm Lucy, I'm tax collector.
yeah,
It's on multiple, it's on their rural wastewater applications, and it's also on the tax club that their payments are due on the 10th of each month. And that gave them an actual 21 extra days to make that payment on time. The 2 month is that their payments are due each month. After, on their second month that they're late, they are taken off the club account. That doesn't mean that they have the opportunity to be 2 months late. And that's kind of my take from representing the taxpayers who have been current in it.
I have a question.
Yes.
Ms. Lear's letter indicates that her payment wasn't received or didn't have her bill paid in full by December 1st. And Lisa, didn't you just say that they had to be paid by December 10th?
November 10th's payment is the one that would have to be current by December 1st.
I see.
So they have to either have their taxes paid in full before the December 1st, or they have to be current on their tax club, and their tax club payment for that month by the 1st of December would be November's payment.
So when was it paid in full?
That it would have to just be their tax club payments would have to be, and currently, she did make a payment in, it was like the second or third, I apologize, I don't have that written down, for November's payment. It was
Second or third of
after-
December?
It was sent out then, it was not received to us until I think it was like the 8th. I would have to look that up.
can I ask, I'm confused about the roadway water rebate. What,
Rural wastewater rebate,
okay,
that is for, because our septic is included.
okay,
in the
that's,
tax bill,
okay.
So that's
That
what,
was-
It just said roadway, I was confused about rebate check for, okay, I get it. No.
I understand
the
your
rural
position, Lisa, and it is the rule. And I understand when other people, you know, have made the effort and gotten their money in on time, that it's awkward to give someone who hasn't. But we live in a small town and we take care of one another. And I, for one, am in favor of giving her a break.
I'm just doing my.
I know.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
No, and that's, it's been seconded, yeah.
Yeah.
Then, I taking off my employee hat and putting on my resident hat right now. And I just want to say, I really don't think it's fair for people who made sacrifices to meet their obligation and to stay on top of it, to forgive that, because I do know there were people that did make financial, what do you want to call it, sacrifices in order to make sure their payment was in on time to qualify.
And I had done that in the past, and this year it slipped my mind, and you are right, I should always have it in on time, and I will improve on that.
And one of the things that I want to state is that the tax club payment is due by the 10th.
Right.
And we have allowed to go by the postmark and all of that on it.
Well, the postal service definitely is a variable which is beyond our control.
That's why we go by postmark,
So,
not when you're.
Postmark, not the delivery, yeah.
Just saying.
Any more discussion? All in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.
You're all set, Michelle.
Okay. Thank you.
To appeal rural wastewater rebate decision, Alice Fernald.
Hi, I'm representing Alice as she is actually working tonight, but she's been in the tax club for 2 years and has never had this problem, but this year I tend to go to Northeast more to the town office, so I was sort of held with the check to pay her taxes, and in November things kind of got a little chaotic and I had a knee replacement and blah blah blah. So anyways, it was sort of, I had forgotten it and she thought I'd already sent it, and once we realized that, we sent it in. And I guess my concern was when you're paying your tax monthly, which was 400 and something, or 300 and something. And then the consequences to lose, 800 something that she was anticipating to help pay for her homeowner's insurance and, different things, and had never been late, or had never been late within out of the month. And I just feel like we need to give, and I hear what the person at the town was saying, but and I think our solution is that we're going to do a bill pay on the checking account, so it'll just automatically get sent. I think that's our solution, but we didn't think of it before that. So it was late, and it was a variety of errors. And I guess her thought was that if it had been October and she'd paid that late, it wouldn't have made a difference at December 1. But just because it happened to be November, then her last 7 or whatever months didn't matter, that they were paid on time. That she got a consequence that's pretty heavy financially for her. So.
I think the first payment is August, right? July, okay.
Yeah.
Lisa, sorry, is it, I don't know because I'm on town sewer, but is that clear in what,
Is what,
like that if they are late in their tax credit, like that it does
Uh,
affect that rural wastewater?
it is on the application that they have filled out.
Okay,
It's on, it's stated on there, it's in our ordinance.
Okay,
It is also an article that is also within our annual report.
okay.
I guess
But we
that-
also allow people to come forward to appeal that.
That's what they've done in the past.
I wonder how wise it would be to actually set it up so that people that wanted to participate in the tax club had to set up an automatic payment. Because that, that seems insane to me in this day and age that we don't.
We had missed the, forgotten that December 1 was like the decisive.
I'm just talking about in general, to sign up in the first place.
If
Yeah.
I did look at the payment history
That's
and
fine.
everything, they've been
Yeah.
very diligent on it.
I would
That's
move,
not
we
the question.
cut her some
Um,
slack too.
Yeah.
We do, we do try to encourage when we have people come in and say, well, we're late, or because what we have to do as a courtesy is when they've missed one payment, we usually send out a letter explaining you're 1 month late. If you become 2, you're taken off the
Yeah.
club account. And that is all courtesy. It's not something we have to do. And it is time consuming. And
Yeah,
it's time consuming if we have the same people repetitively. So if they reach out to us, we try to explain to them, maybe this is an option. And I've even walked them through the bill pay and
Yeah.
to talk to the banks and we try to do our due diligence.
yeah, I would just put it on the application that this is a required part of, if you want to be a member,
I-
this is what. you-
Yeah, we can't require that.
Good.
Don't make a motion, Laura.
Do you have auto pay?
We do not, we were under the understanding that our online company we were going with had that as an option and found that it was not for a payment plan. If you could set up an audit pay for each year and that was it, you can't set it up as a reoccurring.
That was part of the,
Yeah.
I mean, all of her bills are pretty much auto pay,
Yeah.
just to try to keep them on time. And I guess we filled out the form, 2 years ago or whatever, 2 years ago and 3 years ago, that we, forgot about this December 1, big consequence.
Well, I moved that we allow her appeal and give her
Yeah.
that break.
I second. Any more discussion? All in favor? Thank you,
Thank you
Wanda.
so much. Thank you.
Right. Consideration of a request from Island Housing Trust to provide financial support for construction of the roadway and sanitary sewer infrastructure for the Ripples Hill Phase 3 development.
Here from IHT currently. So they're proposing, this is my neighborhood too. So
Yeah.
I live on one of the roads that's being extended, just so you know that. Well, so I have mixed interests in this. I'm trying to set all that aside for the moment and just talk about it from the public works perspective. I did provide a memorandum that talks about just the level of efficiency and practicality of doing this. It makes a little sense to have sort of disjointed public-private roads, where a portion of it is public and a portion of it is private, and same with the sewer system. We do have private sewer connections onto the public sewer lines, but and that will still exist. Go ahead, sorry.
No, that's okay. I just, so if it was a schizophrenic residential area, what kind of infrastructure will we be called on to put in if down the road they decided they wanted the town to take ownership of that loop?
I think it would be similar to what happened when the current segments of these
Right.
roads were brought into the town, where they were in a condition that didn't require really anything. So there would be no additional infrastructure if it happened in relatively quick fashion.
Yeah.
It would be built privately, it would be a private road. We would have to figure out what happens with some of the services that occur if there's something that happens with the wastewater, then we have an interest in that private line functioning. Where does the plow stop? Do we
Well-
plow a private road? Does that take an MOU with the neighborhood or
Yeah.
through Island, right? It's just an extra complication. And in addition to that, and I don't want to speak for the select board. There's, you know, the
Affordable
need for
housing,
public housing.
there's no question.
No,
It's
Really, I don't know why we're.
This is doubling the neighborhood. I
No
wanted to speak
question.
primarily just
Support
as
this.
public works,
Yeah.
just to give you kind of a sense of like, why
Yeah.
this would be really complicated and
Yeah.
much simpler if it's just done as a
It sounds reasonable.
public road.
I would move we support this project in any way that we are allowed to,
So
including.
okay, so then continuing on that vein, what we would propose, I think we would do would be put together a warrant for a bond issue for that amount of money, which I was happy to see that they had used estimators. That's a really good way to do it versus just getting opinions of cost. So I feel confident in the number that they put together and move forward with bringing a warrant forward.
Mhm.
That would cover the cost of that, and which is before the construction. And we'll have to figure out language in the warrant to ensure that the town has sufficient oversight to expend those funds on lands that are currently private, then would be turned over to the town, or whether we have to develop an additional warrant to actually take that land and turn it over to the town. So they can
Before the road,
execute
yeah.
this construction project. So I have to work out the details of how that goes forward. So it may be one warrant, maybe two, but essentially the gist of what I'm hearing is, yes, let's bring this to the voters.
Well, I think-
on warrant or two.
If I may, they always say the devil's in the details, but coming here tonight to get a initial approval and acceptance of this concept goes directly to the heart of affordable housing. And we're either serious about affordable housing in our community or we're not.
100%.
So here's an opportunity for us to, if the Island Housing Trust had to do this on their own, that could be 7 other houses that don't get built. So having us be a partner in this and moving forward on that infrastructure improvement goes a long, long way toward improving the number of affordable houses in our community.
Yeah, it's doubling the number of homes in my neighborhood from 9 to 18, your former neighborhood.
Yeah,
It's
I was the first one there.
a lot of houses.
It's almost enough for a block party.
I was all alone for like a year.
All in favor?
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks.
Thanks, Brian. Review and approve acceptance of bid from Viking Cities in the amount of $129,711 to equip the new 2025 International Truck and Chassis utilizing funds from Public Works Equipment Reserve Account number 4050100-24500 with an unencumbered balance of $445,718.67.
Move it.
Second.
Pretty typical of cost.
Seems like every meeting.
All right,
we find
any
a new
discussion?
truck.
All in favor?
Just equipping a truck.
Yeah, I know, I wasn't gonna say it. Yeah, thank you.
All right, new business continued. Review and approve request to solicit bids for a new line painting machine.
A little less expensive than. Kodak.
Yeah. Move approval.
Second.
All in favor? Review and approve change order number 2 with Gardner Concrete to reduce the contract price
Imagine that.
from $747,451 to $557,559.30. A reduction of $189,891.70.
Remarkable.
Move approval.
Second.
Oh, all in
Just
favor?
balancing change order.
Wow, cool. That's a rare thing. Consider releasing $3,543.30 in the fire equipment engine reserve account. Number 4040300-24471 to use for repairs to the fire department's 2013 International Ferrara fire truck.
Move approval of releasing those funds.
Second.
Yep, all in favor? Review of fiscal year 26 budgets, Public Works. And being that, some of the salary lines are gonna be placeholders.
So I looked pretty closely through this budget and tried to think about ways in order to keep this small an increase as possible. and kind of reallocate things in a few different spots. And so you'll notice some sort of big changes here and there. And in some of the payroll, which I have very one enter, things like parks and cemeteries, there's a part-time position. We haven't hired that position that I'm aware of. I don't know what they ever did. So that money is reallocated to other places where we have need. But I was always thinking about it from the perspective of the two warrants that cover public works. And in the budget sheets that you have, they're out of order relative to the way I always think about them, because you're gonna see highways first. Then you're gonna go all through the wastewater. Well, the wastewater is its own warrant. So highways is separate first, then there's a completely different warrant, all of the wastewater stuff, and then the rest of what everybody calls highways. So buildings and grounds, parks and cemeteries are later in that budget. That's goes with the highways part, which is the single one. So most of the shuttling kind of happening either side of the wastewater. So it's a little hard to track. I apologize, but that's just sort of the way that it's structured and laid out. But I kept things within the same warrant. I didn't move money from one warrant to a different warrant as I moved things around. And some of the increases are, just really lagging accounts where it's either chronically underfunded or we've added roads or costs are just going up. The addition of roads where we've got more salt and sanding, more snow, plow overtime. It's just more time on the roads and more materials used. We've actually kept the truck, so we have an additional truck that's gotten built into the CIP for the same reason. Other increases are not as significant. If you look at the highways, there's the uniform increase.
Yeah.
Again, that's just a consolidation. It went down in another segment where it didn't make sense to track uniforms across these individual divisions within one warrant. Where it's really the highways crew didn't need to have its own refuse
Oh, so.
uniform line. And have all of that stuff split out. Pretty cohesive unit, and they can all work together anyway, so if they're switching around, it made more sense to have it in a single location.
Does that have electricity fall into that category also?
I tried to look individually at electricity and see where we were with that each particular line. In terms of electrical usage. There's on that front, right now, we're in a power purchase agreement on the town highway garage. One of the things that I'll be coming through with later is I got a fair market value estimate from Revision Energy, which is who installed the panels in the first place. It came in very close to their original estimate when we signed that purchase power agreement. Last May annual town meeting, we put money forward to purchase those panels. We'll be out of that PPA and not paying for electricity at the town garage. So that electricity bill, while I'm not anticipating to take it and reduce it now,
Right.
we'll be seeing savings down the road because we'll be paying, we are paying on that bond right now. But we'll be seeing savings. I'll get you a full, of payback time on that, but I did try to keep them as tight as I could, understanding that some of them have been chronically underfunded.
Okay.
The clerical under the wastewater,
Mhm.
is that new, is that something you subcontract out now? Well, obviously you haven't, because there's no.
The position was created, I'm not sure when, but it was created years ago, so it's been a budget line for quite some time, but it's never been funded. So there is no one.
Okay.
There's me and Ed and Ben.
Yeah.
And that's it. And there's an enormous amount of stuff that really just isn't getting done.
So it's essentially theoretically a
It
new
would be a new
position?
person, yeah. I mean, theoretically, it's a position that exists, that should haven't been funded, and nobody wanted to hire someone into it.
Has a position been posted?
No, not until
Oh, okay.
not until this would be finalized, would I move in any direction like that at all. That would be later.
It'll be July 1st.
Yeah,
You say it continues to be funded.
no, it's never been funded. This is the first funding of it. I've split it between the two warrants.
Thank
So it's
you.
halfway split and half.
Yeah.
Split across the two.
We created the job but failed to pay for it.
Somewhere it got in, it was created, it is a position that exists within our budget, but was never funded.
Non-funded
It's-
position.
It's pretty desperately needed in order to keep up with all that's going on in a department of this size.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
If there are any other highlights that I'm missing. Oh, the other was recycling services. Tipping fee crom is the line that.
Where is it?
That's in waste management.
Good job.
$509. Reduced it in half. There's $170,000, and so I brought it to down to $85,000, and my hesitation to take it any lower than that is just simply this, I don't want to repeat the thing that we did as a town previously, where the Hamden plant comes online, Municipal Waste Solutions gets things running, and then for some reason, we need to rebuild a recycling program in the middle of the budget cycle where we have no money to do it. So they have confidence that they're going to be starting in summer with running materials through that plant. There's going to be a phased in approach where phase one is going to be essentially functioning as a transfer station where they are essentially, they're testing the waste stream to see what's coming through. They're going to want all of the material that will be in the waste stream. They're not going to want us to recycle at that point, but I hesitate to fully commit to defunding the recycling program until we really have assurance that that plant is running and operational and we're going to take all of it.
You've had a lot of assurances.
So I think you'll understand my hesitation.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I just applaud it.
Kind of
Absolutely.
hedge our bets a little bit on the 85.
You know, I
It's
don't
a
know.
6 months of recycling if we need it, and if we don't need it, then we will have a reduction, a further reduction next summer.
For the life of me, I can't think of why this came to mind, but have you ordered new signs for your down at the diesel station that have your name as Public Works Director and your number instead of the
Which has
former?
not, which has the
Those
name
great big
number.
signs with who to call in an emergency and anyway, I drive a bus, so I go down there and I'm like, huh. Those are a little
have
out
to
of
look at
date.
those. I
They're
haven't looked at those.
large,
I look at
they're
the recycling
large
center ones.
metal signs in two places. Anyway, you deserve your name on the sign.
I have access to a sign shop.
Well, okay then, and the number, I don't know if it's still valid.
Yeah,
but Anyway.
I'm guessing it is.
Ben's on there, so that's good, he's still there, but
I think you mentioned this, but what's the deal with the cemetery services?
I did want to increase that a little bit because there is a need in the cemeteries that we manage. We have quite a number of cemeteries that we do take care of, and we haven't really kept up, and we need to add a little money to make sure that we are taking appropriate care of those spaces.
Yeah. Okay.
Mhm. And one not very important question, but I noticed our liability insurance. Just south of. Certainly the skating rink. Page 7. Went from $13,000 to $7,000. Why that?
Basically, I took that number in, basically that number was too much,
Yeah,
so we cut it down,
okay.
so. We put in, the liability every year is a guess, what you put in there.
Yeah.
And we didn't need that much, so why put it in?
Makes sense.
Just like the workers' comp, you just never know what those are going to do.
Yeah,
So 1 year it goes way up, and next year it goes way down, it's sort of frustrating, but it's very difficult to budget for it.
One of the shuffle line. I said I was only moving money between, in one particular warrant and not from one warrant to another. I misspoke slightly. There is an additional warrant that I do the entry for, which is streetlights. And it's its own separate warrant.
Yeah.
And we have the sustainability budget within the general public works warrant. And that has been doing for some of the streetlight work. And I moved out of the sustainability division within the public works warrant into the streetlights in order to pay for electricity and continued repairs on the streetlights. So I've kind of just got it in the right spot now.
Good.
instead of it being
Thank you.
Across things.
I think we've had to explain that every year ever since.
And probably will continue. We need to act.
It's just a review.
Thank you. Anybody have anything to say?
Nope.
No? All right. We're done with public works for now. Municipal budget is next.
So you've done all of your department head budgets now, so what I've given you is the grand total of everything for the municipality this year, which would include your CIP, your debt service, so you've seen those three individually, now these are all put together, and at the end of it on the last page is what your total is. And I know my memo didn't get in the packet, but I didn't
Right.
get a chance to read it.
Got it.
So I just, with that memo, just sort of outlines this. If there's any questions on that. It's basically what you've seen and then throwing it all together and putting it in the package. So I thought it was pretty good, we came out pretty good, 1.60% across the whole municipality, which I think is pretty good. And that includes everything. I put in the proposed salaries, I put in your benefits, and I put in also your which was very kindly agreed to pick up the family medical leave act assessment, so that's in there as well. All that stuff is all stewed together. Yeah. Any follow up?
So, Carolyn might understand that any discussion regarding the removal of the 3% cap on the CIP would go into effect in next year's budget?
Well, it would have to go into effect, no, that's really not true. If you wanted to, you're talking about the salaries?
No, I'm talking about the capital improvement plans that
Oh,
each department head does. We have a 3% cap on how much they can add or increase.
you look at that annually. Right.
But at what point do we look at it so that the department heads,
You look at that at the beginning of the next budget year.
that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh, I
thank you,
didn't understand.
Yeah.
That's right.
because they've already done their thing
Yeah, they've already got what they need.
and kept under that
Yeah.
3% cap. The only reason I raise it is because, it reared its ugly head this year with one request that exceeded what the CIP allowed for. An additional funds we needed to transfer from another budget line. And if we cap it at 3% and inflation is off the charts as it has been, it might be wise for us to eliminate the 3% cap and tie it to the consumer price
Well,
index.
I think that's a discussion you're gonna wanna have next year. It
Right.
looked like this year, the inflation went back down into that 3% range. I think it came out 3.2 with the final thing. But who knows what next year will bring?
Certainly not.
That's right.
It could shoot back off the charts again. But so far, everything was in pretty good fashion for the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for that clarification. I just didn't know at what point you were gonna be discussing that.
There's something to look forward to next fall. Circle it on your calendar, Rick.
Yes, I will.
Right. Well. We're all set with municipal budget for now. Any public comment?
I have one.
Yes,
On February 25th, we're gonna have a combined meeting with the Board of Selectmen and the Warrant Committee to the third party service group request night. I'd like to move that we start the meeting at 6 o'clock instead of 6:30, it being a Tuesday night. And try to, we have a lot of agencies to go through. Normally you all start at 6:30, we usually start at 6. So I was wondering if the board would be willing to start at 6 or even, Claire, you're shaking your head.
I'm answering Martha, no, but if the applications and everything have already gone out with that 6:30
We'll
PM.
leave it at 6:30.
Okay, but
No change.
it's one
It's one
night,
night
it's
only.
one night because, the number has significantly dropped due to some of it moving over to MOUs.
Right.
So. It's like one night, but.
Oh,
it's-
that's why, you know what I'm thinking, because we have a meeting on
You
the
do.
24th and then the
Right,
25th.
yeah, I was
that's
just
right.
gonna say, you still
Yeah,
have your regular
that's what-
meeting and then
yeah.
the next one.
Okay. Thanks.
But bring it up next year
We-
before I make.
I don't wanna argue, but you and I discussed it back in December, the application's finally gone back, and we did all our calendar, we discussed it, because it was a Tuesday night, and the board was already gonna meet on Monday, that we wanted to do it 6, but I'm not gonna argue and complain.
No,
Next year,
yeah,
we'll
those
do it at
were
6.
posted in November, I think.
That's why we can't take, which I was not aware, we'll just let it go. Public comment over.
okay. Anybody else have anything to say? Okay, we're losing out. Other business, any other business?
No, sir.
No, oh, right, we'll do the treasurer's warrants. Approval and signature, town invoice AP 2548 in the amount of $905,401.06.
Move approval and signature.
All in favor?
Second,
Second.
I'm sorry, second, all in favor. Appro-
Jeff, you were also in favor, yes.
Yes.
We're all in favor.
Yeah, that's the last item.
I'm sorry. Approval and signature, state fees and payroll benefits, AP 2546, AP 2547, and town payroll PR 2515 in the amount of $250,143.37.
Move signature.
Second.
All in favor?
one abstention.
Careful over here. Acknowledgement, school invoices, AP 07, school payroll, PR 15, no voided disbursements in the amount of $211,536.62.
Move acknowledgement.
Second.
All in favor? I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So
Thank
moved.
you.
All in favor?